Secretary Panetta, you were on television recently after the president retweeted those videos, and you said that retweeting the Muslim videos was like playing with fire. Talk about that.
Well, it is dangerous. It's a dangerous thing to do, and I'll go into this. By the way, God bless Mike Pompeo for the ability to sit down and brief the president and have the president listen to the intelligence reports. That is damn important. And I was a little worried about that at the beginning. But if Mike is doing that and the president's engaged, that is extremely important to the president being able to do the job. The president cannot operate without intelligence. He's got to know what's going on in the world. And so thank you for the ability to have developed an approach that obviously is one that's working, and I appreciate that. The problem of dealing, of suddenly tweeting an anti-Muslim video like that is that once it goes out, what it does is it inflames the people that are out there. And we had very much the same kind of experience in the time that I was there when there was Koran burnings that took place that made their way to video. And when those Koran burnings go out in a video, it resulted in several demonstrations taking place at various embassies. And the problem is that lives can be jeopardized. So I just think it's really important that the president understand. And I'm not sure he fully understood maybe the implications of what he was doing. But it is clear that it's not something he should do, because when you do that, when you tweet something like that out there, you don't know what the consequences are going to be. And the consequences could involve lives. So better not to do that. And I hope he'll refrain from doing that in the future.
Twitter makes your job harder.
We use Twitter for lots of things in the intelligence community. There are days we have good days, and there's days that we use it in ways. I mean, right? Social media more broadly. Go ahead. I know what question you're going to ask.
One account on Twitter makes your job harder.
Oh, I don't know that that's the case. I've actually seen it help us. I have seen things the president has put on his Twitter account actually have a real-world impact on our capacity to understand what's going on in other places of the world. That is, our adversaries responded to those tweets in ways that were helpful to us to understand command and control issues, who's listening to what messages, how those messages are resonating around the world. My son knows my views on social media. It is not an unambiguous good. And maybe that's enough.
But you want to, yeah, sure. How about just react to Secretary Panetta about the specific, the playing with fire?
I don't have much to add. The president, in my experience, when we talk with the president about the threats from radical Islamic terrorism, understands that it is incredibly important that we address the malign behavior in a way that reflects on opportunities to make Americans safer. End of story.
Go ahead. Let me comment on the tweeting thing, and obviously this will be different than Mike's view. As a former chief of staff, I cannot imagine what it's like to serve a president who tweets in the morning. The whole purpose of the White House is to develop some discipline in terms of messaging, in terms of policy, in terms of everybody being on the same page when you get up, and everybody knows what the president's going to be doing, what the message of the day is going to be, and everybody is coordinated. And when you wake up in the morning, if you're chief of staff and you suddenly got a bunch of tweets out there that are raising all kinds of hell in different areas, it's very upsetting to the operation. You got to then figure out, how do I deal with that stuff? And it diverts you. Look, I know the president, loves to tweet. I mean, frankly, if I had my way, I'd take that tweeter and throw it out the window. But I understand he likes to tweet. But in the very least, if he's going to tweet, he ought to at least have some policy process to develop, what are the policies you want to advance, and then let them tweet the hell out of it. But at least there's a policy process involved. You aren't doing this by the seat of your pants. And even, for example, on this video, if there's just a check system where he says, I want to tweet this, this Muslim video out, what do you think, John Kelly? What do you think, Mike Pompeo? And, they'd raise the concerns. At least if you had some kind of check on the process, we'd be a hell of a lot better off. So I express the concern of how do you develop discipline, chain of command, a rational policy process in the White House when you've got somebody who loves to tweet, gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning and says whatever the hell he wants to say. It just raises a little bit of concern about stability.
Yeah, Leon's correct. We do have a different view.
I'm sure.
We probably spent too long on this already.
Sorry, I opened the door.
You did. One last thought. I think Secretary Bennett correctly said that the world is more dangerous today. We have more flashpoints. Those all pre-existed January 20th of this year. So message discipline, as you referred to it, got us to those places. I'll leave it with that. Right? I mean, what I mean by that is we should not over-attribute the place we find ourselves in the world today to things that may or may not have as much impact as folks like to suggest sometimes.
Well, I think a lot of Republican presidents I know exercised a lot of message discipline.
Yeah,
wasn't so bad.
This wasn't meant in a partisan way at all. Where we find ourselves today is the trajectory of post-World War II conflict, or you can say post-9/11 conflict. We found ourselves, these were Republican and Democrat presidents alike. This isn't partisan in any sense whatsoever.
Well, no, I understand what you're saying, Mike, and I understand the president's motives in doing that. But it needs to be tied to a strategy. You just don't roll a grenade in the room, have things blow up, and then not have a strategy for how the hell you deal with it.
Moving on, we have...